Well, they say the stars at night are big and bright deep in the heart of Texas. That's why we brought Kenny Van Doren, because we're going to talk about the stars of tomorrow and what they can do today. Let's go right now.
Jainer Diaz, this is Locked On Astros.
Hello and welcome to Locked On Astros, your daily Astros podcast. Here are your hosts, Eric the Man Huysman and Brett Htown Wheelhouse Chancey.
Hey, everybody, and welcome into a special edition of Locked On Astros. And look, there he is, Kenny the Man, Kenny Van Doren. He is here with us. This kid knows a ton about the minor leagues, and we're going to be talking about, thank y'all for tuning into Locked On Astros. You know who I am. I'm Htown Wheelhouse, and this is your favorite and most downloaded Astros podcast on the entire planet. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. FanDuel is America's #1 sportsbook. Go to FanDuel today, bet $150 or bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets just for winning that $5 bet. Like, you could have bet the over and under on the Rockets game tonight. James Harden is in town. The Texans play the Cowboys next week. And boy, Kenny, we could have a whole nother podcast on just the Cowboys, the Texans, the Rangers, the Astros, all the Texas rivalry. The only thing missing from that conversation is, dang, we need a hockey team. But Kenny, before I digress and get into the rest of the sports world, tell us where they can find you, and tell us what you've been up to.
Yeah, you can find me on X, Twitter, at the Vandalorian. It's been like that for a long time. Search my name as well, Kenny Van Doren. Pretty sure I'm the only one out there. If you've been following me recently, sorry, I did accept another job as of late, covering some Mizzou sports recruiting again. So you're probably seeing that, but once baseball comes around, I'll make sure to mix a little bit more in there. So if you're still following, thank you. If you're not, no worries. But you can always find me there. Find the Astros Future podcast. I know Jimmy wants to get that going again here in the off season. Especially with the Rule 5 draft coming right around the corner.
Yeah, definitely. We do have that coming up, and maybe when we get closer to that, we definitely would like to have you back on, Kenny. Had to hang up my headphones. We love having you on because every time I think I know something about the minor leagues of the Astros system, here comes Kenny with another great tweet with more information that I wouldn't know had I not followed you, had we not become friends. And I guess we're not colleagues, but kind of run in the same circles. So I feel privileged to be a part of that circle that you're in. But Alex Santos II, this kid comes out of New York. He was one of the most highly touted, if not the highly touted arm out of New York, amateur arms, in like 20 years from what I hear. Everybody was high on him. The Astros got him, came in, was expected to do a lot. I think dealt with an injury, I believe, which kind of set him back. And then, boom, he pops up in the AFL this year, the Arizona Fall League, not the American Football League, but the Arizona Fall League. And we chronicled his numbers the other day. Man, he's throwing gas. He's getting a lot of swings and misses. So tell us about Alex Santos II. How's he doing?
Yeah, this is probably what you wanted to see from Alex Santos a couple of years ago. I think, for a lot of guys, it's sometimes a gamble to go after a high schooler in that 2020 draft as well, just coming into that COVID season. It's a short draft. It was their first pick after losing the first round pick and second round pick due to the sign stealing scandal. It was the pick that they got for losing Garrett Cole in free agency. So that it was their top pick that year. And it's just, he's struggled. I think that's a fair thing to say for Alex Santos in that first season. It was kind of fine when he was in single A Fayetteville in 2021, his first full season of professional baseball, 3.46 ERA. But across the last 2 years, he definitely has struggled. He never eclipsed more than 83 innings in 2022 or 2023. ERA was around 6, north of 6, pushing 7. At high A in 2023. Of course, playing in a hitter's haven down there in the South Atlantic League, but still probably not what you wanted to see from the top pick in that draft. This year, dealt with a right elbow strain, missed most of the season, made 6 appearances, 5 of those starts, only got up to 23 innings. So this Arizona Fall League was huge for him. You've seen guys in the past, Jaime Melendez, who dealt with an injury back in 2023, a lower back injury, and it just kind of persisted into the Arizona Fall League. This was an opportunity for Alex Santos to hit that reset button, kind of like what Jaime got to do, but this time with Alex, he never had like a setback. He won a Pitcher of the Week award in the Arizona Fall League. He was the Astros lone representative in the Fall Stars game. He actually started the game, and today he picked up 6 strikeouts. Recording here on Wednesday, and he's up to the lead in the Arizona Fall League with 26 strikeouts. So he's in a very good position after dealing with that right elbow strain and knocked him out for most of the year. And for a lot of these guys, I think, looking at the Arizona Fall League just roster for the Astros, the 7 to 8 range is what you usually get, maybe even 6, depending on who you're sending. And some of those guys will come back for different reasons, injuries. Your team has seen enough. They're going to go to the Premier 12 or whatever it may be. A lot of these guys have stuck around. A lot of them were on the fence though for getting non-roster an invite to big league camp in 2025. And I think Alex Santos, out of any of them, really solidified that spot. I think he definitely earned it. I can confidently say that, I expect him to be in big league camp, and I think he's turned the corner, and now it's just about staying healthy. He looked good in spring training last year, and I'll finish up with here in a second, but he's definitely pitching well. Good mix in his last this outing he had on Wednesday out of relief. He had 6 swings and misses, but he mixed the curveball pretty well with his sinker and cutter, fastball in there as well. But I think maybe Baseball Savant wasn't recognizing that, but had a slider as well. So he's had a good pitch mix, and he's using it well in the fall league.
No, that's awesome. You love to see that. And the Arizona Fall League, for those that don't know, because I don't know how much everybody knows about the Arizona Fall League, because honestly, unless there's a massive name out there like a Bobby Witt Jr. or someone, Major League Baseball to me doesn't really do it justice in marketing that. Of course, maybe it's because it's only in one part. Maybe if they moved it around, I know it's there in the fall because of the weather, so on and so forth. But you would think if they maybe moved it around, maybe they moved it to some major league stadiums, you could get some exposure to that. I think that'd be a great idea. Major League Baseball, y'all can always hire me for all your marketing ideas. I will gladly take a paycheck from you. And I will talk nicely about Manfred just to get that job, because that's how I roll. But I digress. So Alex Santos II, this kid, really, like you mentioned, I mean, his ceiling is way up there. And to do this 6 strikeouts in an outing, because he added 6 strikeouts today. And I think before today, he was at 14. I forgot how many strikeouts he was at. He had more strikeouts than he had innings. And then he added a few more innings. I think he's at 20 plus strikeouts now, and around
17 in the third inning.
17 in the third inning. So that right there is definitely what you want to see. So, and we'll talk later about who's going to join him, because I think he definitely will be invited to the party. Let's talk a little bit about Jacob Melton. Jacob Melton is a guy that everybody wonders about. And then also let's sneak in some Pedro Leon talk. Pedro found his bat last year. Pedro, I think, I don't know, call me, I don't know. I think Aaron Westlake must have helped. Aaron Westlake coming into that clubhouse, Kenny, I think made a difference.
Yeah, it was his second season there. He spent some time down in Corpus Christi as well. And it's always good when you're moving up the system with the same guys. But a lot of this as well is, maybe Westlake worked with him in Corpus Christi. I don't know off the top of my head how much overlap there was there if he was there with Leon in 2021. But, he's been around these guys for a good amount of time. And the good thing that the Astros staff has always kind of preached as well, talking about a lot, especially hitters, is that everyone has the same game plan. They know exactly what these guys need to do. When Jacob Melton got up to AAA, he was just coming off that wrist injury. Never really got to settle in back at AA. And the Texas League is very make or break. It's going to make or break offensive players and pitchers. It just really is the one that's going to push guys out or push them forward. And he just never really got to settle back into it. And that kind of played into some poor numbers at the AAA level. Scouts asked me to kind of talk with Westlake as well as like, where's the power going? And Westlake, kind of gave me the coach speak answer of saying, most home runs are just line drives that got over the fence. It's just accidental line drives. And I think there's something there that they're still making tweaks and simplifying his mechanics for Melton. He mentioned that a couple of times this past summer and into the fall, but both, he's definitely taking the steps forward to probably be a contributor this season. Of course, the front office is going to be bullish of him. They're going to tell him, like they've told the last couple springs, even with Drew Gilbert a couple years ago, they want him to contend for that starting center field job. They want him to have the confidence to be there. I think he'll probably take a good step forward offensively, kind of get back to where he was in 2022, just because he dealt with that injury and he was simplifying his mechanics. When you look at a guy like Pedro Leon too, I think I said this, someone asked me this summer, what's like kind of the ceiling for him? And I think a fourth outfielder is very fair to say for Leon. He definitely saw a lot of improvements, but he's also been at AAA. Was it like fourth season now?
Yes.
Fourth time at AAA. And so that just comes with it. He was walking a lot more, striking out less, but he got to the major leagues and the strikeouts went up. I mean, it was just kind of like that. It's not always going to translate, especially for a guy who's had a lot of time at AAA. And so moving forward, I think he's probably a guy that you want to see as a serviceable fourth outfielder, maybe someone that can play second base in a pinch, but I wouldn't really ever put him back in the infield just because he did struggle at shortstop, never really looked comfortable at second base. Just stick him in the outfield, use him as a pinch runner when you need him because he still has that speed. But we'll see if he takes any steps forward in Winter League and then gets into camp this year because he's on the 40-man roster.
No, yeah, definitely. And just know that this episode is brought to you by Game Time. But before we get on to our next segment, I've got a couple questions when we get out of this break, because I've got a couple viewers that have questions about two specific players. But before that, let's hear about Select Quote. The World Series brings teams together. It relies on teamwork. At Select Quote, they want to be a part of your team. That's right. They want to protect your financial legacy and your family's future. Select Quote's licensed insurance agents are the perfect teammates when shopping for customized, affordable life insurance. Select Quote is one of America's leading insurance brokers with nearly 40 years of experience, helping over 2 million customers find over $700 billion in coverage since 1985. You invest so much more time and care into yourself and to be the healthiest and best version of you. So Select Quote's exclusive policies can reward that effort. Head to selectquote.com and a licensed insurance agent will call you right away with the right policy for your life and your budget. Select Quote, they shop, you save. Get the right insurance for you for less at selectquote.com/locked-on. Go to selectquote.com/locked-on today. Go to selectquote.com/locked-on. All right, guys, thank y'all for making us your first listen. Make sure you make Locked On MLB your second listen. Go to Sully. Call Paul Francis Sullivan. Please call him Sully. He is the baseball encyclopedia. He actually predicted that we would get Pete Alonso. But, of course, he said predictions are really just kind of a drop in the bucket and they don't really mean much. And to kind of just kind of put a bow on Pedro Leon, I remember talking to Elvis Rodriguez, one of the former Dominican Summer League hitting coaches. Him and Rafael Pena had come on the show. We talked to him. I talked to both of those guys pretty regularly. And I remember him saying, like, look, Pedro Leon just isn't a natural hitter. There's a difference between a major league player that's a natural hitter and one that isn't. And he said that's always been the part of his game. But he said if he ever would have been able to figure that out earlier on, he said he was going to be your classic 5-tool guy. Now, Zach Cole and Gusto. Can we see Gusto pitching for the Astros in a significant portion in 2025? And tell us about Zach Cole.
Yeah, we'll hit on, Ryan Gusto was supposed to make his major league debut at the end of the season before they called that game against the Cleveland Guardians. So he's in a good spot there. They don't have to worry about him with the Rule 5 draft because I do think that there's probably some teams looking at him before he got added to the 40-man roster. Coming into this episode with you, Brett, I was thinking about that because you're looking at some guys. Urquidy's not in the mix anymore. But you got 3 starting pitchers that you're probably going to lean on a lot in 2025 that are coming off pretty serious injuries. That being Luis Garcia, Lance McCullers Jr., and Christian Javier, who's probably not expected right on opening day. So you probably want to see Luis Garcia and Lance McCullers Jr. be up to speed for spring training. But if they're not, I think you're definitely going to see Ryan Gusto kind of step into an early role. Maybe something like Spencer Aggetti did last year. And I think another guy to throw in there is AJ Bluebaugh as well, who probably will definitely see his major league debut finally after dominating AAA in certain stints. And he was in the Arizona Fall League in 2023, primarily as a reliever, showed that he could dial it up to 97. course, when he's in a starting role and in the heat, especially when he's at AAA, that number will be a little bit lower, and he'll supplement that with some of his other pitches like his cutter. But yeah, Gusto, I think we'll definitely see one. It just kind of comes down to how does that rotation shake out? Are they going to add a starting pitcher in free agency? Are they going to bring Yusei Kikuchi back, Justin Verlander back? If not, I think they're probably in a spot where they're not maybe contending as hard as they have in the past if they aren't bringing in a serious starting pitcher, or tenured starting pitcher, excuse me. But yeah, I would definitely imagine Ryan Gusto is going to see some starts this year. With Zach Cole, he's definitely, I think, Jimmy Price and I from Astros Future, we've had this conversation before. I think he's the most athletic prospect in the system. He did deal with a hamstring injury early on in spring training, missed a couple months, but he's shown flashes. He has a 70 grade arm. He's a great defender, and I think that kind of flies under the radar because he hits pretty well. I mean, make or break Texas League, posted some pretty decent numbers for the Hooks in the 2024 season. Started to see a dip, though, there near at the end of the season. He was kind of sitting around 800, ended up falling to a 710 OPS. So it's just kind of regression near the end of the season. 60 grade runner. He just has all these tools, just need to keep it going offensively. I don't think he's a guy you necessarily see this season, but maybe a guy that's going to be pushing. He'll probably be in camp this year, but pushing forward, I think he's probably going to be one of those outfield guys just based on just all these tools he has.
Yeah, definitely. So let's talk about outside of Alex Santos. Obviously, we know Gusto is going to be there because he's on the roster. But who can we expect to be invited to the West Palm Beach party? Because, that's always interesting. And I had my first experience 2 seasons ago going to spring training. And right now, I don't see anything holding me back from going to spring training other than just getting there, which I'm making plans to go there this next spring break. What minor leaguers can we expect to maybe get out there, get some chances, maybe shine? I know the Justin Dearden thing was really disappointing because he came on hot a couple spring trainings ago. He's like, oh, the beard, he's coming, he's going to be here. And then, that's why baseball is so difficult, Kenny, because you can have flashes of brilliance, i.e. Tyler White, and do all this stuff, even at the major league level, and just not really succeed. That's why it's so hard to make it. Who's going to be in West Palm that maybe we should be looking forward to seeing?
Yeah, there's going to be a good amount of pitchers. I think that was one of the biggest things. The Astros sent more pitchers and position players to the Arizona Fall League. Some guys that are probably right on the fence, like Alex Santos, who in my mind definitely solidified his spot there. But there's going to be a good amount of arms. And one of those is Miguel Yola, who, I mean, even Fangraph says this, that he's Rule 5 eligible, but Chandler Roman, the Athletic, did report that he's not eligible. So that's a good spot for the Astros, not have to worry about adding him to the 40-man roster. So he's a guy who climbed up to AAA, has the strikeout record now in Hook's history. So he's definitely going to be a guy you want to keep an eye on. AJ Bluebaugh, of course, will be there. Jose Fleury might be right there on the fence as well. He's in the Arizona Fall League, coming back from an injury as well. Colton Gordon, he is Rule 5 eligible. I think he's probably the primary guy that they're evaluating to add to the 40-man roster. So another guy that you probably want to get slipped in there if he's not taken, or hopefully he's not taken in the Astros eyes. We get some other pitchers from the 2023 draft. Jackson Nezu, Ethan Pecco. A lot of these guys have taken steps forward. They've climbed the system fairly quickly. Even James Hicks as well, who was a day 3 guy out of South Carolina, who the Astros had their eyes on since he was in JUCO. So there's a lot of those pitchers that you probably want to be excited for, keep your eyes on, and continue to monitor. Even Rhett Koba, who battled a lot of injuries this season.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily know if maybe it was the injuries or just the jump to AAA that really gave him so much trouble these last 2 years. Another guy that's probably going to be in the mix for a non-roster spot. I think after the Rule 5 draft, you'll probably get a good sense of where the Astros are going. I saw someone in comments mention as well with Quincy Hamilton. And, he had a good start to the Arizona Fall League. He was walking more than he struck out, but OPS really dipped. And when I talked to Quincy during the AAA championship or the Pacific Coast League championship in September, he mentioned to me, he doesn't care about the numbers, doesn't care about how he's going to perform in the Arizona Fall League, which is a good mindset to have, because all the stuff around the Arizona Fall League with, the Fall Stars game and, pitchers of the week, it doesn't really matter in the end, because it's just a league that's about development, but also a good time to get used to winning. But he mentioned too, he's going to keep doing what he's doing, make the strides he needs to make, and whatever happens, because those numbers won't simply define him. And I think he's still going to be a guy that's going to be invited in that group of outfielders.
No, yeah, definitely. Quincy Hamilton, I think, is a guy that might be on the outside looking in, but he's shown promise. I remember I interviewed him, I believe it was last season, and I was just really impressed with his work ethic, with his mindset. And that's the thing that I've really enjoyed is having access to these guys there at AAA. It's really neat to talk to these guys because you hear about the grind. You hear about, I remember hearing guys like, who was it? Joe Record and other guys maybe who have been with us where he had been a starter. He had been turned to a reliever. Then he went to a closer and he said, look, and I remember even Sean Dubin. I remember Sean Dubin and them saying, I would rather be a major league relief pitcher than a AAA starter. And so these guys really, truly do have something to prove, and they're willing to do it in any capacity. But before we move on to the third segment, because I'm going to get Kenny's picks for two MLB bats that he feels are ready to make an impact on the big club and 2 arms that he thinks are ready to make an impact on the MLB club. But before we do that, let's hear about FanDuel. Oops. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Thank you all for tuning in. FanDuel is America's #1 sportsbook. You hear me talk about FanDuel all the time, and we do know that it is the place to go for all your sports betting options. It doesn't matter what time it is. It doesn't matter what season it is, but right now it's football season. So we know right now if you are a new customer and you place a $5 bet, you get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets in the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of a game, you can check out the latest stats, view play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. So just visit FanDuel.com today and get started with $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sports book partner of the NFL. All right, so Kenny, this is a great conversation. It always seems like when you come on, it goes by so quickly. And I hate that. So that's why we're going to have to keep bringing you on because there's never enough time. But real quick, tell me 2 bats, 2 arms that you think that will make an impact in some form or fashion with the Houston Astros in 25.
Yeah, I think I'm just a rambler. I want to mention one thing. I keep seeing it popping up in the chat as well. Talking about shortstop position, you got to realize, the Astros moving guys around. It's just going to happen. Shortstops are the most talented players on the field. They're the most athletic. If they can play shortstop, they can probably play other positions. You've seen it with Miles Straw, even at like teams on other teams. Jackson Merrill's a shortstop, and he's a Rookie of the Year finalist as a center fielder. It's just something that's going to happen. If you already have a solidified shortstop, you're just going to have to keep moving forward. And a guy like Pedro, he was an outfielder, played shortstop growing up. So that was just one of those things we wanted to see if he still had the arm. Okay, so 2 guys. This is kind of a tough one, I think, especially for the bats. I think an easy one, kind of just throw it out there, is Jacob Melton. I think you want to see him in the major leagues at some point this season just because he is the top prospect consensus by multiple outlets. So you want to see him make an impact, make sure he made those strides and those mechanical adjustments are there. Another bat, it's a tough one. I don't think you look at guys like Bryce Matthews or Reddy just because you want to see him take a couple steps forward, clean up some of the work at third base. If they're going to look at him in the outfield just because he is a shortstop and they have Jeremy Pena right there now, maybe they do that in spring training. Maybe they give him a run at AAA, but there's still a lot to clean up there defensively and just offensive strides moving forward. Luis Baez had that injury at the end of the season in the surgery. He didn't really hit well at AA. I felt like that was a little rushed. The strikeout numbers just weren't impressive at all at high A. Of course, he does have the power. He does have the hit tool. Still a lot to figure out there at AA. Zach DeZenzo, of course, made his major league debut. It's a tough spot to really give you another offensive contributor in my mind. You guy like Quincy Hamilton, like you mentioned, on the outside looking in. He's on the older end, pushing mid 20s into his later 20s now. I think I'll probably just roll that Bryce Matthews has an opportunity at the end of the season when rosters expand, or even before then, if an injury happens, if they don't bring Bregman back and they want to look at someone, maybe they move with him. Pitching wise, this is a fun one. I think there are a good amount of pitchers that are going to make their debut or just even contribute to this team. Maybe a guy that's in the top 30, and this is an easy one for me, is AJ Bluebaugh. I think you're definitely going to see AJ Bluebaugh this season. And maybe that's in a Spencer or Getty role where he does come up when there is an injury and he needs to make his debut. I mean, he needs to be on the 40-man roster at some point just because of what he's done for this team. And, have to start paying him like he's, a major leaguer just yet. But in the next year or so, you're probably going to be looking at him. And then Logan Van Wy. I think he's a guy that's continuously going under the radar. The Astros have added a lot of undrafted free agents over the last couple of years, especially in that area that scout Jim Stevenson oversees, which is kind of like North Texas, Oklahoma, Missouri, Arkansas, and in a little southern Missouri. And he's found a lot of these guys. And I think Logan Van Wy might be the first one that actually breaks into the major leagues, gets his opportunity. He's throwing high 90s. He has a funky kind of arm slot that looks different. He's joked with me. It looks like I've never had a pitching coach before, but it works. This is kind of a cool story too. When Jim Stevenson went to see him, I think before the 2022 draft, the scouts were leaving. Saying like, yeah, this guy doesn't have it. And now he's at AAA. I mean, the guy had some of the most innings of any reliever in the Astros system this past year. He's 6'2", 205 pounds, and going to be 25 years old going into next season. I think you're just definitely going to want to probably see him in the major leagues to see what he has, just because maybe there's not an abundance of relievers. If injuries are going to happen, he's probably someone you want to lean on just to see, because last year you saw with a handful of guys.
Oh, well, no, I mean, Kenny, we saw last year just with injuries. I mean, the amount of arms you need for a major league season these days is really almost alarming, to be quite honest. You are way removed from the days, almost like an alternate universe where you have, like, you would never step foot to the field if you're a manager and a Nolan Ryan or Steve Carlton were on the mound. You just were like, okay, let them pitch. Nolan sees you take the step and you're just like, okay, my bad, Nolan. I didn't mean to offend you, right? Because they felt like that was their job. And these pitchers have been conditioned for shorter outings. Now, you had mentioned Jose Fleury. Do you think Jose Fleury makes some waves? Do you think coming out of a good Arizona Fall League, staying healthy, is he someone that could possibly squeak in, or is he still maybe a year out?
Yeah, I wasn't too impressed with just the raw numbers. Like I mentioned, we look at the Arizona Fall League, is very hard to assess just from a non-player development staffer point of view, because you don't know exactly what they're working on. They're not going to tell you everything that they're working on. But he was a guy that dealt with an injury, still on the younger side. I think you're kind of just imagining that Fleury gets up to AAA this next year and maybe debuts after that. The expected arrival date is 2026, so still 22 years old. The changeup is his best pitch, so definitely something to monitor when he gets up to AAA and has the stat cast. You can start to look at how that pitch is favoring against different sides of the plate. But I think Miguel Yola, of those, the Latin-born players, the international free agents that they've signed over the last couple of years, is the one you're going to see first.
Definitely. Well, and I might want to mention now, look, I'm not saying that it's because of Locked On Astros, but Ethan Pecco's people reached out to us and asked if we wanted an interview. So we said, yeah, sure. Well, we picked the day. Well, the day we picked, he was actually pitching, Kenny. Now, you and I both know when you go to a ball field and a guy's starting, you're not running up and asking him questions, right? You're letting him focus. He's going to focus a mechanism. Wouldn't you know, ever since that start that day with us, he has been phenomenal and been on the rise. I like to call it the Locked On Astros effect. I may be getting ahead of myself, but remember, Greg Kessinger did get called up 3 days after I interviewed him there at Consolation Field, and a week and a half after I interviewed Corey Julks, he also got put on the 26-man roster. So say what you want about Locked On Astros haters, but all we do is help players advance. So maybe we should have an advanced scouting department. Maybe you could be head of that department unofficially. I would love that. I know you got too many irons in the fire, but to wrap things up, Kenny, The Space Cowboys just finished an amazing season, league championship, 93 wins. Are they going to be able to replicate that? Or, I mean, that's a tough, I mean, they were the only team in all levels to have 93 wins, right?
Yeah, I the easiest way is to say no. It is extremely hard to do. It is extremely hard to predict anything with minor league standings, especially at the AAA level. You know,
True.
I'll give them credit. You know, I talked to a lot of these guys right after they won, and they're writing these highs, and they're saying like, you know, we were never on the top 30 lists and all this. And it was like, a handful of you're not prospects. You know, a lot of them are former major leaguers or guys that have been kind of dwindling around in AAA, but everything clicked. It was a great culture that they had there. A lot of good guys, and they had a lot of, you know, top prospects that still came in as well. So there was a lot of talent there, a lot of, you know, veterans, just everything kind of meshed so well there. And Mickey Story, who's been a phenomenal, you know, coach in the Astros system, has climbed the ranks, former Astros pitcher, in fact. So, you know, all credit goes to him. All credit goes to that staff. It's just going to be extremely hard. And it's hard to imagine just because this team had, I think I was talking to Garrett Green, who's the broadcaster for the Space Cowboys. They had like the most transactions of any team for the first couple of weeks. So there's so much change, so much turnover at the AAA level. I'm just going to say no. I have no idea who's winning any league in the minor leagues next year, just because guys are going to move all the time. It's all about development. Of course, you know, you want the titles, you want to win, you want to get these guys a winning mentality, but you're also pushing them up as fast as you can.
No, yeah, definitely. Kenny, it's been great, man. Like always, like you knock it out of the park every time. I mean, your OPS with us is probably over 1,000. You probably have hit, I mean, I would say a grand slam every at bat that you've come on. So we just want to thank you so much for joining us here at Locked On Astros. Hey, guys and girls, thank y'all for joining us. I didn't get to everybody's questions, but I promise you, we'll get Kenny back. There's plenty of time. We got spring training. Make sure you follow him at the Vandalorian. Make sure you follow Astros Future, and make sure that you make us your first listen every single day. I'm Htown Wheelhouse. From everybody, from Kenny, from Eric the Man Huysman. Y'all have a good one, and as always, go Stros.